I never expected a simple chemistry lab to change my life, but that's exactly what happened during my junior year of college. Looking back, it seems almost inevitable. The way two elements can create an entirely new compound when combined under the right conditions. My name is Alex, and I've always known I was gay, though I wasn't exactly shouting it from the rooftops. Coming from a small conservative town meant I'd spent years perfecting the art of being selectively authentic, open with close friends, but careful around everyone else. College was supposed to be my fresh start, a place to fully embrace who I was, but old habits die hard, and I found myself still hesitating to fully step into the light. Enter Ryan Matthews, tall, athletic, with an easy smile that made everyone around him feel instantly comfortable. He was the kind of guy who seemed to effortlessly excel at everything. Star of the university swim team, consistently on the dean's list, and somehow still had time to volunteer at the campus environmental club. When our chemistry professor announced lab partners for the semester, and I heard my name paired with his, my stomach did a nervous flip. Not because I was attracted to him. Well, objectively speaking, he was attractive, but I'd long ago mastered the art of not developing feelings for straight guys. No, I was nervous because Ryan's reputation for academic excellence meant he'd expect nothing less from his partners. Our chemistry lab was an advanced organic chemistry course, notorious for its difficulty and the precision it demanded. The lab itself was a sterile environment filled with the sharp scent of chemicals and the soft hum of equipment. Large windows lined one wall, letting in natural light that reflected off the polished surfaces of countertops and equipment. 20 workstations were arranged in neat rows, each equipped with Bunsen burners, test tubes, beakers, and various specialized instruments. The stakes were high. This course was a gateway for medical school applications and prestigious research positions, making the partnership all the more important for both our futures. Our first few lab sessions together were cordial but professional. Ryan was focused and methodical, carefully measuring reagents and recording observations in his neat handwriting. I found myself impressed by his attention to detail and the way he could explain complex reactions in simple terms. Chemistry is just like cooking, he'd say with that easy smile. Follow the recipe, understand why each ingredient matters, and you'll never go wrong. It was clear he genuinely loved the subject, his eyes lighting up when reactions produced unexpected results or when he figured out why an experiment didn't go as planned. As weeks passed, our initial formality gave way to a comfortable rhythm. We developed inside jokes about our professor's bow tie collection and the perpetually confused look of the teaching assistant. Ryan would bring coffee for both of us during early morning labs, remembering exactly how I took mine. Medium roast with a splash of almond milk, no sugar. I found myself looking forward to our sessions together, enjoying the easy banter that flowed between measuring compounds and recording data. You know, Ryan said one day as we waited for our solution to reach the right temperature, I was worried when they assigned partners. I usually end up doing most of the work, but you're different. We make a good team. The casual compliment shouldn't have made my cheeks warm, but it did. I mumbled something about him being easy to work with too, focusing intently on the thermometer in my hand. It was during our 6th week together when everything changed. We were working on a particularly challenging synthesis, requiring careful notation and multiple steps. I was recording our observations in our shared lab notebook while Ryan prepared the next set of reagents. When he slid the notebook back to me after adding his notes, I noticed something in the margin of the page. Scrawled in his distinctive handwriting were the words "Kiss me," followed by a small question mark. My heart stopped. I blinked, certain I was misreading something meant to be chemical notation or a reminder about the experiment. But no, the words were unmistakable, written in blue ink and underlined once. I looked up, meeting Ryan's eyes across the lab table. He held my gaze for a moment, an unreadable expression on his face, before quickly looking away, suddenly very interested in adjusting the flame of the Bunsen burner. The rest of that lab session passed in a blur. My hands trembled slightly as we completed the experiment, my mind racing with possibilities. Was this a joke? A dare from one of his swim team friends? Or maybe I'd misunderstood completely. Perhaps it was a note to himself about something entirely unrelated. Ryan acted completely normal, discussing our results and planning our lab report as if nothing unusual had happened. By the time we cleaned our workstation and packed up, I'd almost convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing. Same time Thursday to finish the write-up? Ryan asked as we left the building, the cool autumn air a relief after the warm lab. Yeah, sounds good, I replied, trying to keep my voice casual. As he turned to leave, he hesitated, looking like he wanted to say something more. But after a moment, he just smiled, gave a small wave, and headed across campus. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of those two simple words kept flashing in my mind. I took out my phone at least a dozen times to text my best friend Mia about it, but stopped myself each time. Saying it out loud, or in text, would make it real, and I wasn't sure I was ready for that. Instead, I lay awake, replaying every interaction Ryan and I had shared, searching for signs I might have missed. The next morning, I ran into Mia at the campus coffee shop. One look at my face, and she knew something was up. Spill it, she demanded, sliding into the chair across from me. You look like you've seen a ghost, or gotten laid. Please tell me it's the second one. I laughed despite myself. Neither. It's just, something weird happened in chem lab yesterday. I found myself recounting the story, my voice dropping to a whisper when I mentioned the note. Mia's eyes widened. Wait, Ryan Matthews? Swim team Ryan? I thought he was dating that girl from his hometown. They broke up last semester, I said, realizing immediately that I shouldn't have known that detail. I'd overheard him telling another classmate, but the fact that I'd remembered it made me feel exposed. Interesting, Mia said, a knowing smile spreading across her face. And have you considered that maybe, just maybe, he's into you? He's straight, Mia, I insisted, though with less conviction than I would have a day earlier. Is he, though? Or is that just what you've assumed? She stirred her latte thoughtfully. People aren't always what they seem, Alex. You of all people should know that. Her words stayed with me throughout the day, through lectures I barely heard and readings I couldn't focus on. By the time Thursday arrived, I'd cycled through every possible scenario for our next meeting, from pretending nothing had happened to directly asking him about the note. In the end, I decided to take my cues from him. If he acted normal, so would I. When I arrived at the library for our write-up session, Ryan was already there, 2 coffee cups on the table in front of him. Hey, he said, sliding one toward me. Almond milk, no sugar. Thanks, I replied, trying to ignore the flutter in my stomach at this small gesture of thoughtfulness. We fell into our usual routine, discussing the lab results and dividing sections of the report between us. If anything, Ryan seemed more attentive than usual, leaning closer when I explained something, his arm occasionally brushing against mine as he pointed to data on my laptop screen. After an hour of productive work, we took a break. Ryan stretched, his t-shirt riding up slightly to reveal a strip of skin above his jeans. I quickly looked away, focusing on organizing my notes. Can I ask you something? Ryan said suddenly, his voice quieter than usual. My heart raced. Sure, I managed, trying to sound casual. Are you seeing anyone right now? The question caught me off guard. No, I answered honestly. Not for a while, actually. Ryan nodded, seeming to consider this information carefully. Me neither. Not since Kayla and I broke up in December. He paused, running a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd noticed he made when nervous. I've been thinking a lot lately. About different things. People. What I want. The air between us felt charged, like the moment before a thunderstorm. I waited, hardly daring to breathe. I noticed you never mentioned the note, he finally said, meeting my eyes directly. So it had been real. And deliberate. I wasn't sure what to make of it, I admitted. I thought maybe it was a joke, or... It wasn't a joke, Ryan said firmly. I didn't know how else to say it. I've never done this before. With a guy, I mean. His cheeks flushed slightly, but he maintained eye contact. I like you, Alex. More than as a lab partner or a friend. And I hope, you might feel something too. The honesty in his voice left me momentarily speechless. This wasn't how I'd imagined this conversation going. In my mind, there would be more fumbling, more uncertainty. Not this direct acknowledgement of feelings. I do. I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. Feel something. But Ryan, I'm confused. I thought you were straight. He laughed softly. Yeah, so did I, for a long time. But I've been questioning things for a while now. Before I met you even. It's just, being around you made everything clearer somehow. He looked down at his hands. I'm not great at labels yet. I just know what I feel. We talked for hours that day, our lab report forgotten. Ryan told me about his growing awareness that his feelings for men were more than just admiration, about his fears of disappointing his family, about the liberation of finally acknowledging this part of himself. I shared my own journey, coming out to my parents during high school, their initial struggle and eventual acceptance, the freedom and challenges of being my authentic self. As the library lights dimmed, signaling closing time, we gathered our things and walked out into the cool night air. Under the glow of a campus streetlight, Ryan stopped walking and turned to face me. "About that note," he said softly. "I meant it. If you want." My heart hammered in my chest as I stepped closer to him. "I want to," I whispered. Our first kiss was tentative, a gentle press of lips that quickly deepened as Ryan's hand came up to cup my cheek. When we finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, the look of wonder on his face mirrored what I felt inside. "Wow," he said simply, a smile spreading across his face. The weeks that followed were a beautiful exploration of our new relationship. We continued to excel in our lab work. If anything, our chemistry in the classroom improved alongside our chemistry outside of it. But we also faced challenges. Ryan was still coming to terms with his sexuality, sometimes pulling away when he felt overwhelmed. I had my own insecurities, occasionally wondering if I was just an experiment for him, a phase he would outgrow. Our first real argument happened after a swim meet. I'd gone to support him, sitting in the stands and cheering as he won his event. Afterward, as team members congratulated him, I approached with a smile. Ryan stiffened visibly, introducing me as his lab partner to his teammates. The hurt must have shown on my face because he immediately looked guilty, but the damage was done. Later that night, in my apartment, the tension finally broke. "I'm not your dirty secret, Ryan," I said, unable to keep the hurt from my voice. "I've spent too many years hiding who I am." "I'm not ashamed of you," he insisted, pacing my small living room. "I'm just not ready for everyone to know yet. This is all new to me, Alex. I'm still figuring things out. And I understand that," I replied, softening slightly. "Coming out is personal, and you should do it on your own timeline. But there's a difference between privacy and secrecy. When you introduced me as just your lab partner, it felt like you were erasing what we have." That conversation marked a turning point for us. Ryan began to open up more, first telling his closest friend on the swim team about us, then gradually becoming more comfortable with small public displays of affection, holding my hand on campus, sitting close to me in the campus coffee shop. Each step was meaningful, representing not just his growing comfort with our relationship, but with himself. One particularly memorable evening, we were studying late in the chemistry building, the lab empty except for us. Ryan was struggling with a concept for our upcoming exam, frustration evident in the crease between his eyebrows. "Let me explain it differently," I offered, drawing a diagram on his notebook. As I leaned over him, he suddenly turned his head, our faces inches apart. "You know what's funny?" he said softly. "I wrote 'kiss me' in that notebook because I couldn't say it out loud. Now I can't seem to stop wanting to say it." I smiled. "So say it. Kiss me, Alex," he whispered, and I did, right there in the empty lab where our story began. Our relationship wasn't without external challenges. Ryan's parents, conservative and traditional, struggled when he finally told them about us during spring break. His father's initial reaction was silence, followed by questions about whether this was just a phase. His mother cried, asking what she had done wrong. It was painful for Ryan, and by extension, for me, watching someone I cared about face rejection for simply being honest about who he was. My own friends had mixed reactions too. While Mia was supportive from the start, others were skeptical. "Be careful," my friend Jason warned. "Newly out guys are still figuring themselves out. Don't get too invested." His words stung, partly because they touched on my own fears. The real test came toward the end of the semester. Our final chemistry project was a significant portion of our grade, requiring weeks of research and experimentation. The pressure brought out stress in both of us, leading to short tempers and misunderstandings. During one late-night session, exhausted and frustrated by a failed experiment, Ryan snapped at me for a minor mistake. "Maybe we shouldn't be lab partners and boyfriends," he said in the heat of the moment. "It's too complicated." The words hung between us, heavy with implication. Was he just talking about the lab partnership, or was this his way of ending everything between us? I packed my things silently and left, ignoring his calls and texts that night as I tried to sort through my own feelings. The next day, I found Ryan waiting outside my first class, dark circles under his eyes suggesting he'd slept as poorly as I had. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice rough with emotion. We walked to a quiet corner of the campus garden, sitting on a bench surrounded by blooming spring flowers. Ryan took a deep breath before speaking. "I'm sorry for what I said last night. I was stressed and tired, but that's no excuse." He looked at me directly, his eyes sincere. "The truth is, being with you, in the lab and outside of it, is the best thing that's happened to me in college. Maybe ever. Then why suggest separating those parts of our lives?" I asked, still hurt. "Because I was scared," he admitted. "Not of us, but of failing. The project, the class, being a good boyfriend, all of it. When things get intense, my first instinct is still to pull back, to create distance. It's what I've always done." He reached for my hand tentatively. "But I don't want to do that with you. I want to learn how to stay, even when it's hard." That conversation marked another evolution in our relationship. We learned to communicate better, to recognize when stress was affecting our interactions, to give each other space when needed without withdrawing completely. We also excelled in our final project, our different strengths complementing each other perfectly. On the last day of the semester, after turning in our final lab report, we returned to the now empty laboratory to clean out our station. As Ryan wiped down the countertop, I flipped through our shared notebook, smiling at the notes, calculations, and occasional doodles that chronicled our semester together. "Remember this?" I asked, turning to the page with the fateful "Kiss Me" written in the margin. Ryan looked over my shoulder, his arms slipping around my waist. "How could I forget? Bravest and scariest thing I've ever written. Braver than telling your parents? Than coming out to your teammates." He nodded, resting his chin on my shoulder. "Those were all scary, but they were about me accepting myself. That note was about us, about the possibility of us. It was the first time I put my heart on the line, not knowing what would happen." I turned in his arms to face him. "And now? Any regrets?" "Only that I didn't write it sooner," he said, leaning down to kiss me softly. As we left the chemistry building that day, hand in hand, I couldn't help reflecting on the incredible journey we'd taken together. From lab partners to lovers, from uncertainty to understanding, we'd created something neither of us had expected, but both now cherished. Like the best chemical reactions, we had transformed into something new together, something that maintained our individual elements while creating a bond stronger than either of us alone. That summer, Ryan stayed on campus for swim training, and I remained for a research position. Without the pressure of classes, we explored our relationship further, meeting each other's friends from home, planning a short trip to the coast, learning the rhythms of each other's daily lives. Ryan continued his journey of self-acceptance, joining the campus LGBTQ+ alliance, and having more open conversations with his parents, who were slowly coming to terms with his sexuality. Looking back now, it seems almost miraculous how a simple chemistry assignment brought us together, how 2 words scribbled in a margin changed the course of both our lives. I've learned that love, like science, requires curiosity, patience, and a willingness to experiment. Sometimes reactions fail, and you have to start again. Sometimes they create unexpected results that lead to beautiful discoveries. And sometimes, when you're lucky, they create exactly what you needed but didn't know to look for, a bond that transforms both elements into something stronger, more resilient, and infinitely more beautiful than either could be alone. Ryan and I are still writing our story, still learning and growing together. But one thing I know for certain, I'll always be grateful for that moment when my straight lab partner wrote "Kiss Me" in the margin, and then looked up. Total _char_count, 18,774.